Hey y'all, welcome in, welcome back to the channel. Today, I think it's high time for a palate cleanse. I have been knee deep in the trenches of overconsumption over the past few weeks. The TJ Maxx bags have stuck with me, the claw clips, and the restocks. It's all just it's a lot. Overconsumption is a lot. And seeing all of this consumption sometimes makes me feel like, am I the crazy one? Even though all of this behavior is not normal. Seeing so much of it on TikTok sometimes makes me feel like, is it normal? Like, you have that moment, you're seeing it all the time, and you're like, wait, has this slowly become normal in actual people's lives? Because even though we see it all the time and TikTok can make us feel like it's normal, it isn't normal. So today, we're doing a bit of a palate cleanse. We're going to be watching some content that intends to show us real life or normal life in some capacity. It is worth saying right out the gate, normal looks so different for so many people and is kind of subjective, to be honest. That's a bit of the point of this video. So, the first segment we're going to watch a few videos on are normalizing normal homes. And the first video in this segment is not really a home, but I feel like it's just the most appropriate place for this video to go in. And it's honestly, I think, my favorite video in this bunch. And I kind of wanted to kick off with this video. So if it doesn't fit this particular segment's theme to a T, just go with me on this one. So the first video on deck we're going to watch is from Camille. So let's watch. Oh, yes. I also just brewed a fresh cup of coffee. You can't freaking stop me with the fresh cup of coffee. If you're somebody who traditionally listens to videos instead of watching them, I actually think this one might be a good one to watch. I'm still going to describe it, and I know descriptions are helpful regardless. That's just a little side note. So, to describe this video, I have to read off my notes here because there is text on the screen. The opening title says, Suddenly You're 44, Single, and No Kids. She shows snippets of her life with text overlaying. So, as an example, she's looking out of a window in the opening scene and she like orders some food and eats it at home. She says, You live in a small studio apartment because you can't afford to buy a house. Next, it says you're an outfit repeater because you're on a tight budget. You also enjoy going out but prefer cozy nights at home. You have a small friend group. The best part of your weekend is waking up early for your morning coffee, and you're happy with this simple life. I have watched this video like 10 times. I love it so much. There are so many reasons for it, and we'll get into more of what I wrote down in a second. One of the things that I think is particularly powerful in this video is she makes statements like, you live in a studio apartment because you can't afford to buy a home. You're an outfit repeater because you're on a tight budget. Budgets and financial constraints are a normal part of life for so many people. They're not something that I really feel like need qualification, right? Like, I'm on a budget. I shop this way simply because that's what I can afford. That is very normal. And when we're watching a lot of influencer TikTok, a lot of budgets, a lot of what things cost, and just like these moments talking about like the normalcy of that are lost because what they want is for you to spend money. And so I enjoy hearing somebody say, or write in this case, that's what I can afford. That's it. I really like this video because it breaks a really dominant mold. not just on TikTok, but how a lot of people talk about adulthood. We don't see a lot of creators on TikTok who are in their 40s. The app skews young, and in fact, about half of users are under the age of 30. So, the kind of real life that gets visibility on TikTok, even when we're looking for it, are people in their 20s. Nothing wrong with that because there are a lot of people in their 20s and those stories are relatable. Hearing about college apartments or your first out of school job, dating or young families or getting married, a lot of things that not all of those happen to people in their 20s, but normal parts of many young adults' lives. All of this is valid, but if you're over the age of 30, but particularly if you're over the age of 40, you don't see a lot of what your life looks like being normalized or modeled online. That's generally speaking, and not just a TikTok thing. Beside her being in her 40s, she shows us a version of normal life for her that we also don't see a lot of online. People who are without children in their 30s and 40s, people who are unmarried in their 30s and 40s, or people who don't own their homes in their 30s and 40s. Those are regular and normal parts of life, and she is happy. This is important to see because so much of our cultural messaging around age implies like a specific route. And there's also like a timeline on this stuff of when things happen about like getting married at a specific age, that you will get married, that you want to get married, that you'll own a home by a specific age, that you want to own a home, that you'll have a partner, that you'll want a partner. And if you're not having done these things by your 40s, the timeline's off. Something's wrong and you just like couldn't be happy. I invite you to go read her comments because there are a lot of women in their 40s and some in their 50s who are childless or unmarried by choice. More importantly, they're happy with that choice. That, again, is worth pointing out because if you don't have these things by your 40s, then something must have gone wrong, I feel like, is the implication. Or like, otherwise, your life wouldn't look like that. Or even if, like, you're waiting or there's circumstance, you're somehow not happy in the meantime. And I think as well, like, she calls her life simple. And I think socially, people think that, yeah, having a simple life is beautiful, but only if you're building up to something bigger. Like, great, you can appreciate your simple life, but it's only beautiful and good and okay if you're working towards these bigger goals. More on that later. And then there's also the social expectations that, like, if you're somebody's life who doesn't fit quote unquote normal milestones or timeline, I'm sure you've heard the question of, why aren't you X yet? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to get married? When are you X? Those questions can be a lot. And all those questions I feel like imply as well that like you must be unhappy or incomplete. This video says otherwise. It reminds us that normal life looks a lot of different ways and it's not bound by age or timeline. Important as well, it does not require other people's validation or validation through things like graduating college, marriage, or kids. There are lots of versions of normal life and life that make somebody happy that doesn't follow a traditional timeline. And I kind of hate saying that, like a traditional timeline, or like you're deviating from the norm, but like you're happy anyway. No, there are lots of ways that normal life looks. Your life can be and quite often is beautiful at any age or any stage. And it can be a really easy trap to fall into to feel like that's not true, or it can be difficult to sometimes see the good, especially if you're living a life that is not normal. And we can also feel that the case if and when we compare our lives to other people. And some of those people being influencers. So much of influencer culture is designed to make us want more stuff, more status, more milestones, reaching bigger goals, like just having more. And I think following influencer culture can make it feel like our lives are lacking. Our homes aren't good enough, our wardrobes aren't good enough, our lifestyle and our social life is not good enough, right? Like you see influencers who are going to all of these events or who have all of these friends and they're dressing up in their cute outfits every night or ordering in food and you're like, well, why doesn't my life look like that? Or I don't have anybody to go with. And all of these videos can be quietly loaded with comparison traps. Let's now turn our attention to the biggest or most common type of video in this normal life TikTok genre, and that is looking at people's homes. When people are showing their normal homes, a big focus is on the aesthetics, or dare I say, non aesthetics. A lot of things that aren't aesthetic or things that they don't have or don't do, things being messy in a lot of cases. A lot of these videos feature homes that aren't staged, that aren't intended to be a backdrop, and they're not trying to be aspirational and importantly sell you things. Like a lot of we see in these videos a lot of half-finished DIY projects, laundry in the corner, mismatched furniture in some cases, dining chairs that don't match, that kind of thing. And for many people watching, seeing homes like this is a little bit of a relief. A big part of influencer culture is selling you things for your home, whether that's ice molds or dining tables. Like during Prime Day that just passed, there were a ton of these videos of people selling you couches and fake plants and rugs and tables and all of that. But also, I think there's this general pressure of aesthetics and your home looking a certain way. Some of this is done through the things that are sold to us, but some of this is done just through visually seeing a certain kind of home all of the time. A lot of influencer homes look the same or similar because of influencer culture and influencers being influenced themselves, but also I think in part because a lot of their homes are sellable and influencers are shopping at the same places to then sell you those things. And importantly as well, their homes are backdrops and their homes need to be aesthetic, need so they can sell their lifestyle and their success to you. So their homes and their lifestyle more generally is aspirational. So you want to be like them. You want a home like them and you see them as emulatable and aspiration worthy. So then you buy their stuff. And to do that as well, a lot of their homes and their stuff is monetizable and clickable, and they'll only show things that are clickable, right? Like if I was a traditional influencer, all this stuff would be linked. And if I couldn't, then maybe I'd buy something new to put in my background to then link for you or talk about like how great this, what is this? How great this jewelry stand. I love it. It's so cute. It goes with my stuff. You could go get it from, I don't know, Amazon for $9.99 or I don't know where it's from or how much it is, but like, you know what I mean? Videos like this though show us something different. And it's actually really striking, to be honest, what a home looks like when somebody is not actually trying to sell you things. All the videos I've shown to you today, they don't have a link in bio to sell you this shit. So it's kind of striking what homes look like when the person's not actively trying to sell you the stuff in their home. When people are living in their homes and using their homes, and the focus isn't on how things look and more so about just being in it. And yes, you don't have to be an influencer to care about the way your home looks. I feel like a lot of people do to an extent. But if you're online, you know that there's a difference between wanting to have some art on your wall or wanting to remodel your kitchen after 20 years versus having everything be an emulatable background or an emulatable lifestyle. I'm kind of pointing back to that.
This is the year that we normalize normal homes. I feel like recently I have fell into this hole of constantly comparing my life and my home to everyone else's that I see on here. It has just not been good for my mental health because honestly, we are so rich and not in like the, oh, they have money type of way, but we have a roof over our head. We have food in our pantry. Our bills are able to be paid on time. And honestly, those are some of the biggest blessings and luxuries that you can have in life. Comparison is literally the biggest thief of joy. I'm so thankful for all the
And you and I both know what real homes actually look like because we visit them. Like we visit our friends or our colleagues or like somebody at work hosts something at their home. We see them. We've been inside apartments and basements or townhomes or condos that don't look like they belong in a magazine. They're cluttered or imperfect, or their furniture is 10 years old. And nobody's panicking that it's not content worthy. When my partner and I were looking to get a place, we toured a lot of homes in her own neighborhood, probably about 20. And one of my favorite things about that is seeing how people lived within our community. Like, there is something so, I don't know, like enjoyable to see inside a real person's home. Like, I saw this one home that had like a really big like second bedroom, and the person had kind of split it in half. One was this gaming setup and the other half was this work setup. And I love seeing somebody's, makeshift work from home setup, or seeing somebody who like picked out their wallpaper in 2005. This is not a judgment on aesthetics, but I love seeing how people live. And sometimes I feel like I need to touch grass because I lose sight of what like how people live, and it's really not normal, like really not normal to have like all of your like all every inch of your house perfectly decorated up to like 2024, 2025 aesthetics. I did not see one home that looked like that, but there were still so many beautiful homes and great ways to live. The beautiful thing is that there are a lot of ways to live and a lot of ways to make it work. And stuff doesn't matter in the way that influencer culture and companies marketing tries to tell us it does. I talk about stuff all the time on the channel, but that's because our culture is so obsessed with it. When stuff becomes a stand-in for success or happiness or self-worth, we lose sight of the ability to just be. And also, none of those things are really true. And that's what I think many of these videos push back on. They're not anti beauty or anti decor. I think they're more so anti perfection and anti performance. I think there's a bit of irony in that, given that these are still a performance. But I think that they are a bit of a quiet or quieter rebellion against this idea that worth is tied to our stuff, or like how nice or upgraded your space is. Our aesthetics don't dictate our value or our worthiness or our happiness. Also, watch this kind of content for a few minutes or a few days and watch how quickly your desire for new home decor disappears. All right, we're going to move on to a segment we're calling Simple Slower Life. The first video is from a creator named Kaylee who says, "Wanting a simple life is okay." That's the title on the screen.
I never knew exactly what I wanted in life, but I thought I had to live a fast-paced life with lots of travel and just kind of go to be happy. And my boyfriend and I have been living together for a little under 2 years now, and I have learned that nothing makes me happier than being home and sitting in my yard. I don't need to be on a plane every other month going somewhere new. I am so content just sitting in my yard with my little bird feeders and squirrel feeders set up, watching all the animals outside, listening to the birds, and just like being in nature and being at my house. Like, that truly fills my cup up so much, and there is nothing wrong with that if you like that too. You do not have to live a fast-paced life. You do not need to do all of the things, buy all the things, have all the things. If you are that way and travel fills your cup, that is fine too. We are all very different, and being different is good, and it's okay. But this video is more so a reminder to the people that just like things simple and almost feel bad or feel like they're boring. You're not boring. You just like it simple, and that is okay. You don't like things super fast paced. I just love my routine weekends. I love to go to Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. I love to go to TJ Maxx on the weekends. I love to do little day trips an hour or two away from my house and be able to come home and sleep in my bed at night. Like, that makes me happy. And there's more people like us than you think. So just live the life that you want to live. Allow yourself to enjoy the things that you love.
I was with her up until the like weekly trips to TJ Maxx. That's like the one thing I don't like about this video, but I can appreciate the overall message without loving everything. All right, so there's no visuals to describe in this video. She's sitting in her car with a very bright pink sweater drinking a coffee. And what she says is that she doesn't want a fast paced life. And what she equates that with mostly is travel. And I think as well, like a high pressure life, maybe even a bit of a city life. And while she doesn't explicitly say it, there is an undercurrent here about money too. A quieter life often costs less. And that matters. We'll talk about money more explicitly in another video coming up. The previous videos we watched, we saw visual representations of what people were describing as normal life. Now we get to hear somebody speak about what they want. And I think that there is an element of beauty in that, like a little car chat. I mean, those are a niche of TikTok too, but I just feel like it's more common to see visual representations of people's lives because they perform well. I say that because somebody is showing us their lives and showing us the visuals of it on a very visual platform performs better. So this, like somebody sitting in their car talking about something that's important in them, feel like there's an extra maybe layer of authenticity. You could feel differently, it's totally fine, right? Because I don't know, it just feels less algorithm focused and more like here's the thing I care about. Either way, what I think she's really getting at is this pushback against more stuff, more experiences, more productivity, more ambition, especially online when more is quite often used to sell us things. But even when it's not, it is still branded and it becomes a lifestyle. Anyway, a lot of people assume that the average person or a viewer or somebody watching that people just want more. People want better. And that can skew our perception of enough. Because when we're seeing people constantly travel, like there are so many influencers who are traveling every month, and that's normal for them. We talked about that in the like, is this normal life videos or things that influencers try to convince us are normal but aren't video. And they're constantly busy and they're constantly doing stuff and they're constantly buying stuff. And those things can make us feel like those lives are big and important. And then we can feel like, well, is our life big enough? Is our life important enough? Is our life too simple? Simple life can start to feel small and unremarkable, unspecial. We're not doing any of these things or living life like them. That's a lie though, because your morning coffee on your porch or sitting in your backyard watching the birds, reading till 4 a.m., like none of those things are actually a sign of a boring life. If those things make you happy, wanting this stuff can make us feel like our lives aren't good enough or maybe we're not striving for enough. And while we're talking more specifically about kind of simple life at the moment, this applies outside of that. People who know what they want are harder to sell to. And this is extra true for people who want a simple life. This is a colossal problem for consumer culture and influencer culture, both of which thrive on dissatisfaction and comparison, but also people who want more. If you're truly happy with your life, and you are truly happy with your stuff, like the way that you're living, and you're not somebody who's chasing more or chasing upgrades, you're harder to sell to. You're harder to market to. It's not that you'll never buy anything, but if you're satisfied with your life and you know what you want, it's easier to throw you off course or throw a wrench in your system. As I've mentioned endless amounts on this channel, there's always something new to want. There's always more to want. You get people in the habit of wanting and coveting more, wanting and coveting newness. You get people in a consumption loop. You're allowed to want what you want, whether it's similar to what this TikToker has mentioned or something different. What she's saying is not the only valid thing to want or only valid way to live. And if we're not careful, the content we consume can try to convince us that it's not good enough when it absolutely is. All right, next up is a video from a creator named Samantha. Let's watch.
Okay, I'm here to tell you it's time to start normalizing normal lives. I think it's really important to know that we are not alone in our circumstances. My family of 4 lives on one income that is less than $50,000 a year. And I'm not saying that so that you feel bad for us, because we have everything we need and then some. The reason I'm sharing this is because I know of so many people that are in the same situation that my family is. And I want to go up against the idea that you have to have a lot of money and a big house in order to be successful. This video is not to knock people who do have a lot of money and a big house, because I absolutely love that for them. It's just not my circumstance, and that's okay. I guess my point is that I think it's okay and even fulfilling to live a normal life, to have a home that you either rent or you have an apartment or it's just small, to have one vehicle for your whole family, to get your clothes only at Goodwill or thrift stores. Please hear me when I say I am not looking to change my life. I'm just looking to share my life with those of you who also have very normal lives.
So she says that her family of 4 lives on less than $50,000 a year. She's happy with that, and she's not sharing it for like a pity or sympathy because she doesn't want to change that. A lot of social media would paint earning this kind of money with this kind of family situation as like a hardship or a starting point to like move from. She is not presenting it that way. She is presenting it as enough. Tell me, how many times have you heard somebody utter something like this online? Depending on your circle, it might be a lot, it might be on occasion, it might be never. Influencer culture does not regularly celebrate enough or people being satisfied at their place in life and saying, yeah, I'm happy exactly where I am. Samantha's video fits so well after Kaylee's because they're saying such similar things. This is just like another take on it. And I bet that if you follow somebody who says, this is my income, I'm happy with it, this is my life, if you also make a similar income and you also live in the US, you might find parts of her life relatable to you. And to get back to the point, influencer culture is constantly pushing us towards the aspirational content and putting more of that out there. And I feel like the people who get the most visibility are people who are showing us those things, the more and the aspiration and the stuff. And as mentioned, it's much harder for people to sell to people like that. People who say, this is my life and I'm happy with it. I went to her profile just to confirm, and she also has no links. She's literally not trying to sell you anything. I think part of why I like her video and some of her content is, and even Kaylee's or other videos in this series so far, is that they break the illusion that everybody else must be doing better, must be spending more money than you, must be living bigger, having nicer homes, having bigger homes. There are a lot of people's lives who look like yours or who look like mine. Socially and culturally, but most especially social media, ties success to upward mobility. We've already kind of talked about that in this video, even in Kaylee's video, and defining our success and our happiness via stuff and gaining more. A bigger home means that we must be happy, that we must be living a better life. You know, a newer car, a better car, a more expensive car. Or you buy your first home, maybe it's a condo, and then you earn more money, and then you buy a semi-detached home, and then you buy a fully detached home. You buy your first car and then you upgrade, and maybe a few years later or decade later or more, you buy your sports car, your lifestyle upgrades, or you take more trips. And the goalposts are constantly moving the more you earn and the more you define your happiness via stuff and money. What she's offering here is a different definition of success and happiness than that. A life that is not measured by money and stuff. Success and happiness coming with things like sufficiency or presence or time. Her video reminds us that living on less is not shameful or bad or undesirable, as she is happy with her situation. It is just another version of normal. All right, we're going to end on a video that's about enjoying where you are right now. Let's watch.
There's a version of you 10 years from now that is begging current you to enjoy life, to enjoy where you are just a little bit more. Even though you may not be where you want to be, you're still experiencing where you are right now. And sometimes it can get really hard not to just fixate on what we don't have. We feel like we're behind or not where we're supposed to be, and it keeps us from enjoying where we are. And there's a lot of merit to being at the early stages of your career, the early stages of your passion. This is like a time of self-discovery, a time of patience, a time of planning. And someday, you might be so busy and wrapped up in all the things that you've achieved that you'll be wishing you had those moments of solace, those moments of reflection, of calm, from which you created, the exciting rush of a life that you're living now or in the future. You're living life right now, and you'll never be able to get this time back. So as long as you're devoted and disciplined and committed to your passions, committed to living a life that excites you, you don't need to worry about the future. You need to worry about right now.
The crux of this message is enjoying where you are right now and not fixating on all the things you don't have. And she's mostly talking, or what it sounds like is she's mostly talking about her, like your career or your passion. There are moments at the beginning of those careers where it's going to take you a long time to maybe finish school or get your training or work your way up to get to the place you want to be or start your own business or something like that. So it does sound like she's mostly talking about the career kind of thing, but what she talks about is applicable way beyond the career. Because I think that there is a relatively normal phenomenon of feeling like you're not where you wanted to be right now in life or by now. Like, I thought I would have X job. I thought I would be married by now. Or I thought that I'd be living on my own by now. Or I thought I'd have kids, or I thought I'd be earning more money. And when life doesn't match your vision, it can be really easy to fixate on that. But it's also not just those things or milestones. We can also focus on other things that we don't have, stuff or vacations, or even things like I thought I'd be able to afford better furniture. I thought I'd be able to take that trip to Greece. I thought I'd be done with roommates by now. So, yes, it's life circumstance, but we can also fixate on the things that we don't have. And if we're already in that headspace, or we're noticing all the things we don't have, or like that's how we're looking at the world, and then being on social media and seeing people who have the things that you have or are in the places that you want to be, maybe they are your exact age, and you see them have those things, whether that's the milestone or the stuff. And then somebody else's random Tuesday becomes the yardstick in which we measure our own life. And using other people's lives to be a yardstick or measurement of your own success or your own happiness is a bad idea, because compare and despair can often be involved, but also you're not that person. You don't live that life. That is not your circumstance. And I want to push back on that, because it's so easy to fall into this trap and say things like, I'll enjoy my life once X, or I'll be happy once X. I'll be happy once I get promoted. I'll be happy once I buy my first home, or I'll be happy once I find a partner. We are actively choosing to withhold joy and happiness from ourselves until we reach something. And we could spend years or decades of our lives doing that. And the crazy part about it is, as well, is that the yardstick often moves. The goalpost in which we measure ourselves moves. First, it might be graduating from university. Then it might be finding your first job. Then it might be getting a promotion. Then it might be moving out of your house. Then it might be buying a house. And there's always something more that we can be working for. I want to, in part, have this video in contrast to some of the others, because yes, some people want a simple life, some people want a slow life, other people do not. And if you're working towards something or you want something in life, it can be easy to not appreciate our lives as we work towards that thing, or as we find ourselves or find what we want. If we're constantly looking at the things we don't have, we miss the life that is right in front of us and the joy and the experiences and the overall life that is happening right before our eyes that we may be forgetting to see or to live. And part of this as well can be a little bit like I'm not allowed to enjoy my life until I've earned it. We'll be happy or we'll allow ourselves to be happy once. Like once I've earned that, once I've accomplished, once I've done the thing that I've said that I would do. That mindset, when combined with the endless messaging of social media or consumer culture, it can also become increasingly difficult to feel like enough as we are. Ourselves and our lives are enough. There's always something new to want. There's always something to fix, something new to chase. I'm hoping these things are making sense too because they're connecting well in my head. And I think like part of what this creator was talking about was, like getting so stuck in your head and all the things you don't have that we're not focused on the life around us. Like if you've had an experience like this, I would be curious to hear yours. I have found myself caught up in this where like I look back at 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and there's certain moments where I go, I was so caught up in worrying about a thing or like wanting to do better in a thing, mostly school, that I like really did not enjoy the life around me and like the experiences that I was having. And I see like the beauty in some of those moments now that they've passed and kind of wishing that I had an eye to that when I was in it because we don't get those moments back. I am definitely kind of moving out of some of the point of this video, so we're gonna bring it back. And I hope that this video was a bit of a palate cleanse, or maybe gave you something to think about, or maybe gave you a moment to think about your own life and all of the great stuff in it, and perhaps appreciating some of the normalcy maybe a little bit more. And if we're people who have been caught up in shopping or being caught up in overconsumption, it is possible that we tell ourselves, oh, it's just stuff, like it's not that deep. But I argue that the perspective and experience of our own life, like how we experience our own life, is one of the most important things to exist. And it's one of the most important things about life. So that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoyed seeing different versions of normal life and hearing people talk about it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon in a new video.